Living Local Carolina with Katie Turner. Local trends, shopping, dining, and more. This is Living Local Carolina.
The following portion of Living Local Carolina is sponsored by Beach Injury Lawyers. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on Living Local Carolina. I am so excited to be back in the studio with guys from Beach Injury Lawyers, Will and Greg. Welcome back, guys.
Good morning, and thanks for having us back.
Good morning, Katie.
Alrighty, we're going to jump right in. We're talking about premises liability claims. And this is why we have the experts here, because I need you guys to tell me what that actually is.
It's a fancy word for slip and fall.
Okay.
You know, you'll hear slip and fall all the time. Somebody will say they slipped on a grape or they slipped on a banana at a grocery store.
Does that really happen?
It does. It really does. And of course, whenever you get a slipping on a banana case, you're like, this really can't have happened, but it does. But it's a lot more than that. Mm-hmm. So not only do we get to see folks that slip on bananas and grapes and things of that nature in the produce section of grocery stores, but we'll also see things that are pretty serious in that one particular claim that we had recently was two ladies were at a furniture store, and one sat down, the chair moved, and unbeknownst to them, the workers had put a very large marble tabletop in back of the chair, and when the chair moved, that tabletop crushed the other lady's foot, and it was a very significant injury. So premises liability, again, yeah, it's a slip and fall, but it's a lot more than just a slip and fall. Before the camera started rolling, you had mentioned water parks. And now that it's warm, summer is here, we'll see a lot more claims for people getting injured at water parks. Water parks have mats, and of course they're there to ensure that once the walking surfaces are wet, you're going to have a non-slip pad so that you don't fall. Now, but one of the things that it's important to realize and recognize is the employees sometimes forget to put the mats back out. And you'll have people who are walking on a very, very slippery surface. And we've seen injuries, ranging from, horribly fractured legs, knees, concussions, traumatic brain injury from folks falling and slamming, and their head slamming onto the surface. So again, it's a lot more than just the grape on the grocery store floor.
Of course, but you mentioned it a little bit. Kind of wrap it up for me in terms of what somebody would need in order to prove that they actually slipped and fell, or what have you.
Well, if you've had a slip and fall incident, the one thing that you have to show is one, that the fall occurred. So that's going to be backed up by medical documents that showed, it's going to have in the history that you slipped and fell, or some other event took place, and that you suffered an injury, you were on the property legally. In other words, you weren't a trespasser. All right? And then you have to show that the property owner either caused the hazardous condition or knew that the hazardous condition was present. Now, that can be a little tricky sometimes because some folks will call and say, I don't know exactly what made me fall. And if you don't know what made you fall, then that's going to be tough to prove a valid premises liability claim.
You got to have the details.
The devil's in the details.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What this really boils down to is you guys are able to help people in the community, whether they have a slip and fall situation or you're just there to help people out.
Very true, yes. So we are local. We've, I've been here for 20 plus years, and Greg's also, we're both South Carolinians. We're fairly active in the community, and I'm looking forward to actually introducing someone next, my friend Brandon Oates. He is the executive director at Shepherd's Table, and they do really great things for the community. I'll let him kind of explain, but yeah.
All right, guys, stick with us. We have more expertise from these guys as well as Brandon from the Shepherd's Table coming up. Well, welcome back to Living Local Carolina. I'm in the studio with the guys from Beach Injury Lawyers as well as Brandon Oates from the Shepherd's Table. How are you guys doing?
We're well, thank you.
Wonderful, thank you.
All right, I've been picking their brains today. We're just getting to know them a little bit better. And one thing about you guys is you love to be involved in the community, and that's how you met Brandon. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I met Brandon recently and decided to go take a tour of Shepherd's Table to see, I knew it was a ministry where they served the homeless and served food, but I found out there was a whole lot more going on and they have a very big vision. And so I thought it would be great to let Brandon kind of explain that. And yeah.
Take it away, Brandon.
Yeah, so essentially the Shepherd's Table, we started out back in 2007, and we started out as a soup kitchen. And so currently we do lunch and dinner Monday through Friday. We don't have any regulations as to who we feed. Anybody can come and get a free meal from us. Once a month we host a Fresh Express, which is a mass food giveaway. And we recently, back in January, opened up a food pantry. So people can kind of come in and shop, and they just don't have to pay for anything. And then what we're also working on is Horry County is full of great resources all over, but transportation is such a huge issue in Horry County that we're trying to create a resource center. It's one of the things that we're working on for Horry County. We're a block and a half behind the bus station in Conway, and we're trying to create sort of a one-stop shop, open up space to allow other resources to be able to come in and offer their services to our clientele. And basically we're just trying to be a hand up to the community.
I love it. And obviously it's really important to have community partners like Beach Injury Lawyers in order to get done what needs to get done. So
Yes.
Elaborate on that, please.
So we're currently we don't get any federal funding. We're supported by the community, local churches. The Shepherd's Table actually started by a vision from a lady named Lynn Snyder, who is back currently on our board. She's the original founder, and she had a vision, and that's kind of where it took off from. So she got together with 10 local churches and 2 civic groups, and they formed the first board of the Shepherd's Table. And without getting any federal grants, we rely on the community, the people in the community, different churches, businesses, or whatever, to basically put that vision forward. And our mission is sharing God's love one meal at a time. And our biggest vision is essentially a job that's ongoing, is to end poverty. But we definitely like to get people to where they don't need us anymore.
That is a great goal to have.
What I found really interesting, Katie, was sort of the success rate of what they've done so far. Brandon, will you explain sort of what you explained to me about who your clientele was and how that has changed over the course?
So I think Will was fortunate enough to be there when our new kitchen supervisor was there. She's actually one of our success stories. So whenever we met her, she was at a low point in her life, and she kind of worked her way through, and we helped her along the way, as long as some other people we bump into. There's people who come from homelessness that need help with finding rehab or finding housing, or just our networking. We've been able to work it to where whenever they come in and they have an issue, we're able to make that phone call and do the behind the scenes work to kind of get them into the place that they need. Because a lot of times when they come in, they have so much going on in their life, so much crisis is going on, that they don't necessarily know what's available out there. And that's kind of why the need for the resource center is.
And we're spreading the word right now on the show.
Well, and as a local business, it's so important for not only us at Beach Injury Lawyers, but other local businesses and individuals to support these type of endeavors. Because as Brandon said, there's no federal funds, so they rely on the goodwill of the folks in the Grand Strand.
All right, well, before we go to break, tell me a little bit about how people can get involved, help you guys out, and stay in touch.
So you can go to shepherdstable.com, and that's SHEPHERDSTABLE.com. There's a lot of different ways to spell shepherd, so I spelled it out.
Thank you for that.
So you can go onto our website. You can plug in there. There's many ways to volunteers. We don't just ask for money. We encourage people to donate their time, donate food, prayers. We are doing a lot of fundraisers, so please email us on our website, and I think that's about it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Brandon. Everyone be sure to stick with us. I've got more from Beach Injury Lawyers expertise coming up after the break. Well, thanks for sticking with us today on Living Local Carolina. I'm joined by the guys from Beach Injury Lawyers, and we've been talking about you guys in the community and a little bit about what you do, but what's really important is client convenience. That's probably the first thing I would think about if I was looking for an attorney.
Agreed. Since COVID, or since the pandemic, I think most law firms have had to up their technology because folks are not as willing to come into the office as they used to be. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but when you have somebody who is seriously injured and can't travel, you definitely want to have certain things in place that's going to make the experience as convenient as possible, mm-hmm. With that client.
Yeah, so we prefer face to face. I mean that's what we like. However, we do understand what Greg is saying, and an example, after the first show we filmed, we got a phone call within an hour of a gentleman who slipped and fell and broke his kneecap, and he wasn't able to come to us, so I traveled to Little River, met with him and his wife, and we signed the case up, and I think he was really appreciative we did that. One thing when Greg was talking about slip and falls, one of the things is if there's a question about whether there is liability, we're sending an expert to go check it out. I mean, that's and that's on us. And we run the risk, of course, if it's not, there's not a case, but it's okay. We need to determine pretty quickly whether or not liability does exist, and I certainly believe it does in this case. But with client convenience, in addition to that, we do things like sometimes we wire the money to people. We can do DocuSign for the initial documents. So they don't have to come in. Wow. I mean, there's a number of things to make it easier, but we leave it to the client to kind of make that decision. If they want face-to-face interaction, we're happy to do that. If they prefer to keep it simple and and do it via using technology, then we're happy to do that as well.
And like Will said, we obviously prefer to meet a client face-to-face, but again, when that's not possible, we'll use video conferencing. And because again, it's emails, telephone calls, those are great, but I think it's good for the client and the lawyer to at least eyeball one another. And it's just it's a bit more personable than just sending out an email or having a telephone call.
Yeah.
So again, video conferencing, that's very, very popular now. And the courts have gone, since the pandemic, the courts have also tried to go to a more convenient path for hearings, whether it be minor settlement hearings or whatever the case may be. Lawyers used to have to drive across the state for a 30-minute hearing, and now most of the hearings are done via the court's website on a WebEx call.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it really does. It makes it more convenient. So, but again, people will say, "Oh, you don't have to do that," or we don't want to inconvenience you. Well, I mean, that's part of our job is to make it as easy as possible on the client, and if that means driving to their house or driving where they fell, going to the hospital, that's part of the job. and we're
Yeah.
happy to do it.
Yeah, I've done that several times this month, in addition to the
Man.
one that I mentioned. Another situation that arises is someone gets injured here while on vacation, they go home. And we have a client in Ohio now who just contacted us, and yeah, I mean, meeting face to face, aside from video, is pretty difficult. So, yeah, glad these things exist. You know?
Well, I know that your clients appreciate you going above and beyond. If somebody's watching right now and would like to give you guys a call and set something up, how can they do that?
They could give us a call at 843-357-4111 or look us up on the web at
www.beachinjurylawyers.com, and they can click consultation.
And social media.
Yes, we're also on IG, also known as Instagram.
We're laughing because I didn't really know what IG was.
We're always learning,
The
guys.
last time we were on the show, somebody said IG, and I just kind of glazed over.
Instagram.
Yeah, didn't have a clue what that was.
What's your at?
Beach Injury Lawyers.
The preceding portion of Living Local Carolina is sponsored by Beach Injury Lawyers.